Yes, one of the most controversial men in the media, the former savage and ruthless editor of the Daily Mirror and one of the most argumentative, opinionated debaters to ever grace our TV screens. Uncle Proper is about to take you on a journey through the trial and the tribulations of it all, being fired from the biggest newspapers in the UK to walking out live on air, as well as the epic Meghan Markle feud. This is the real story of the one and only Piers Morgan. Strap in. Born on the 30th of March 1965 in Surrey, here he is wearing a dress, apparently. Fair enough. His father sadly passed away when he was just 11 months old, and upon his mother remarrying, Piers took the surname of his stepfather, Glenn Morgan. He was educated at the independent Cumnor House prep school as a little boy, and or little girl. I don't know really. He's wearing a dress in this picture, and in this picture he looks like that bird out of Keeping Up Appearances. So yeah, fuck knows. Anyway, Piers was a news junkie from the age of 6, regularly reading the Daily Mail cover to cover, and discovered his own passion for journalism. Yes, the young man was never scared to enter into a debate, getting himself kicked out of pubs in his teenage years for voicing his opinion and generally being a bit of a mouthy little fucker. Not much has changed, to be fair. Anyway, he went on to study the subject at Harlow College in Essex, and at the age of 20 began his media career as a reporter at the Surrey and South London newspaper group in 1985. However, the ambitious Piers always had his sights on bigger things.
I just wanted to be famous. I used to practice my autograph when I was a kid regularly. I wanted to be famous. I used to collect autographs.
Yes, he was fame hungry. Since he was a little girl, he wanted to report for a mega newspaper on a massive scale, so he put the feelers about and ultimately landed a role working at the holy grail of papers, The Sun, in 1988 as a freelancer. Within just a year, he managed to impress the Sun editor Kelvin Mackenzie, who in turn recruited him to work on the popular showbiz column Bizarre in 1989. Now, if you don't know who Kelvin Mackenzie is, let me explain. This is the absolute fucking twonk who printed some of the most famous headlines of our time, such as the front page scandalous lies about Hillsborough and Freddie Starr eating a hamster. He got most of his stories, which 99% of the time turned out to be bollocks, from the shameful Max Clifford, another complete tit, and as it turned out many years later, a complete and utter wrong'un. Anyway, sorry, rant over. Yes, the young Piers excelled in the role and was brushing shoulders with the biggest celebrities on the planet. Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Gary Oh dear, I'll take that one out of the fucking photo album, Piers. Anyway, the brash young Mr. Morgan made a name for himself and impressed once again, this time turning the head of the big dog, Rupert Murdoch, head of News Corp, who then appointed him editor of the mighty News of the World in 1994. Yes, only 29 years old, he was now first in command of the most controversial, ferociously powerful and biggest selling newspaper of the time. It was a dream come true for Piers and the future was bright, and then merely after a year in the job he went and fucked it all up. Now, he did have lots of success with the paper, especially working with that complete butt plug Max Clifford, but it was ultimately published photos invading the privacy of Catherine Victoria Lockwood, leaving an addictive disorders clinic, that prompted Catherine to take legal action, and Piers was ordered to apologise. To which he said, nah, fuck 'em, and instead decided to leave. Luckily though, he had made friends in powerful places, and this resulted in the Daily Mirror calling him for the top dog editor position at their paper, putting Piers back on top once again. Now, of course, he had no intentions of reeling in his brash journalistic style, so his time at the Daily Mirror was once again littered with controversy. Just shy of a year in, and this headline directed towards the Germans a day before they faced England in Euro 96 drew in a number of complaints. I mean, I don't really know why. It's not the worst, is it? The 90s must have had a load of woke knobheads as well. Anyway, another apology was required, which this time Piers took on the chin.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, don't hurt me, sorry.
And it was an even more sour occasion as the Germans went and ruddy beat us, didn't they? Bloody hell. Southgate shit himself, Moller finished it off. Fucking saucy Germans, proper liberty. Yes, aside from the controversy, Piers was selling a bucket load of papers during some of the biggest events in our history. The passing of the lovely Diana, the tragic attack of the Big Apple, and many more. However, his brash style of editing of course created some enemies with rival papers, and it was the Daily Telegraph who came down hard on young Piers. Yes, Susie Jagger revealed that he had bought £20,000 worth of shares in the computer company Vigeland, and then the Daily Mirror promoted and tipped this stock as a very good buy. You cheeky monkey, Piers. So he was found to have breached the code of conduct on financial journalism. But after a trial which incidentally showed he had actually bought £67,000 worth of Vigeland stock and not £20,000 worth, bloody cheeky that Piers, me old son, he did in the end manage to keep his job. Terrific. However, He then found himself under attack by even more angry famous people that he had splattered all over the headlines, including Naomi Campbell, who sued the Mirror for invading privacy, as well as the well-known tiff with Mr. Jeremy Clarkson. Yes, Piers published photographs of Jeremy in a compromising position with someone who wasn't his wife, and they bumped into each other in the loo whilst at the press awards, and Jezza gave him a whack in the face. It all kicked off, didn't it? Jeremy said, "You squishy face melt, I'll have you." Piers said, "Go and swivel, you big curly-haired skid mark. Fuck off." Sorry, I don't know if those exact words were exchanged, but it was something like that. I'll tell you what though, if there's school photos or anything to go by, I reckon it must have been a pretty violent fight. I mean, they looked like a right pair of hard nuts when they were young. Yeah, frightening. Anyway, he had been on a knife edge for a few years now at the Mirror, and his time finally came to an end due to another failure to apologise, this time centred around the publication of photographs showing the British soldiers and some dodgy behaviour towards prisoners that soon after were found to be fake. Yes, the pictures were a hoax, but Morgan refused to acknowledge it, saying they were real, leaving the Mirror big dogs and shareholders with no choice but to sack him with immediate effect. His 9-year reign as editor had finally come to an end, and a bucket load of celebrities all went thank fuck for that. Now Piers' profile, after many years at the heart of British journalism, had grown significantly. He was a recognised face through multiple appearances on TV, and knew this was the route he now wanted to take. In 2004, he co-hosted a current affairs interview show on Channel 4 with Amanda Platell, interrogating guests from both right-wing and left-wing, but the show was dropped after just 3 series, basically because no one fucking watched it. Anyway, he pressed on till 2006 when old trouser boy Big Simon Cowell recruited him for his hit TV show America's Got Talent, and his brutal judging echoed that of Simon's, who then felt he would be perfect for Britain's Got Talent, ultimately taking his fame into another stratosphere. Which is more than we could say for old Donald here. Oh yes, remember him?
Well, sometimes
Lovely. Yeah, Britain's Got Talent didn't really help his profile quite as much as it did for Piers. I mean, to be honest, to me, he sounds just the same as all the other pop stars these days. You know, Tyler Swift, Molly Cyrus, that weird bloke who dresses up like a fucking balloon. Who else? Nicki Minaj? Yeah. But did he get a record deal? No. Bloody shame. Anywho, yes, Piers' television career had taken off, and he had a cheeky win on the US Apprentice with the old Trumpmeister, adding to his American fame as well. And then upon his UK return, he signed a golden handcuff deal with ITV worth $2 million a year, giving birth to shows such as Piers Morgan On documentaries, and of course Piers Morgan Life Stories. Yes, the hit TV show interviewing the absolute greats of our generation, the fascinating stories from the likes of the incredible Rod Stewart, Elton John, Paul Gascoigne and Gemma Collins. Alright, fair enough. So things were going rosy for old Mr. Morgan until 2011, when his past came back to haunt him. He was called as a witness during the Leveson Inquiry, a judicial public inquiry into the practices and ethics of the British press during the early 2000s, the controversial phone hacking scandal. Now Piers had left the News of the World, who were under fire for the majority of the accusations. However, it was common knowledge that many papers at the time were using the same methods to obtain stories, and one of these was the Daily Mirror. So the former editor was called in for questioning. In his statement, he said he had no reason to believe that phone hacking had occurred at the Mirror whilst he was in charge, and in the end the powers that be accepted that he had no involvement whatsoever.
I was really struck by something that Piers Morgan said. Have you got a mobile phone? I said yes, and he said, have you got a security setting on the message bit of it? He then explained the way to get access to people's messages was to go to the factory default setting and press either 000 or 1234.
Yeah. So anyway, Piers was an innocent man. Justice had been served. Yeah, fucking sort of. And it was on to his next venture, taking on the American market by replacing Larry King on CNN. The mighty Piers Morgan Live, debating American cultural issues, voicing his controversial British opinions, and interviewing high-profile guests, usually kind of like this. So yes, what do you think is the next step to improve the rate of unemployment in America? Yes, well, I'm glad you asked. I think that... Nope, I totally fucking disagree. Here's what the problem is. Yes, Yes, so the ratings went down year upon year and people complained about his constant interrupting of guests along with many other things. The show came to a close in 2014, but the mighty Morgan was unfazed because the golden handshake at ITV was still in place, and back in the UK, another talk show had a seat for him at the top table in the primetime breakfast slot. Yes, Good Morning Britain. So alongside Susanna Reid, he reignited his CNN style of interviewing and broadcasting, once again debating all the controversial topics and shouting his bollocks off at guests at 7 in the morning whilst we sat there in the kitchen eating our fucking Cocoa Pops. Yes, so he really did get your blood boiling in the morning, but you've got to be honest, love him or hate him, you can't deny it was ruddy entertaining. Everyone got a pasting, didn't they? Yes, the vegans, the multi-genders, Matt Hancock, oh stop fake crying you great big yoghurt. Oh, and of course not forgetting the one and only Meghan Markle. Now Piers took on this role with the ambition of surpassing the viewing figures of BBC Breakfast, to which ITV always trailed. His style once again caused controversy, with Ofcom receiving many complaints on many occasions, but the viewing figures were essentially increasing year upon year. However, after more than 5 years of gracing the British public in the mornings, one fateful day in March 2021, it all came to an end. So over the years, we all knew that Piers liked Meghan Markle about as much as he likes vegan sausage rolls. Not a fucking lot. And when she and her little ginger puppet appeared on Oprah with some choice comments about the royal family, Piers hit the roof. He was double fuming, he called it an outrage. His little face went even more squishy. Then the bloody weatherman got involved. I don't know who invited him. He should have been telling us if we needed a fucking umbrella that day, not arguing about Meghan pissing Markle. Anyway, the debate finally got too heated and Piers stormed out, leaving the show behind, and oh no, he came back, didn't he? Yeah, he thought, fuck it, I'll have one more little domestic with Weatherboy. And then when the lights came down at the end of the show, he knew the time had really come for him to leave Good Morning Britain behind. However, on his final week, ITV finally surpassed BBC Breakfast viewing figures for the very first time, and it has been claimed that they lost around 200 million market value upon his departure. Piers went home to his family and just waited for the phone to ring. And of course, it bloody rung, didn't it? Murdoch the melted candle was on the blower once again, weren't he? Hello Piers, fancy a gig on Talk TV? Too bloody right, Mr. Murdoch, me old China. And yes, he was back on TV in no time, smashing up our screens once again with his epic debates. And you bet your life old Meghan and Ginger Balls ain't been forgotten. No, he's still all over him like skids on a toilet bowl. Fucking love it. And here we are. So that's it. Yes, the life and times of Mr. Piers Morgan. You either love this man or you hate this man, and I don't think he'd have it any other way. Well, I do think he's a bit of a donut at times, but I ruddy love him, I just can't help it. Piers Morgan, double legend. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more of these stupid videos coming soon. Big love, big bosh.